welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Big Gold Belt recap review of the amazing hit MGM Plus original series Godfather of Harlem. We're here to talk about episode 4, When Crackheads Run Wild. I'm gonna start naming these episodes just because all they do is tell us the name of the episode, but this is clearly When Crackheads Go Wild. Here, so it's your boy Lucas here with my guy Najir. What is going on this evening?
What
sir?
up? What up? Nothing, same grind, different day.
Hey. Always. We're gonna jump right into it because I love the beginning of this episode here as we get the groundbreaking ceremony of Bumpy Johnson's new Queen's Child project, or whatever the St. Clair project, as he's calling it here.
New episodes every night at 9 p.m. on whatever channel that was on.
Hey, all I'm playing with them fans at. They're crazy in there. But here we get the opening, we get the ceremonious feeling that we get from Bumpy, all to be interrupted by union leaders. Anybody who knows anything about the union, you should have known this was going to be a problem. But what is highlighted here is how it's a problem, and how with all this white press there, with now this huge fight breaking out, we just get to see, and I think it's a great correlation that we'll talk about because we get it at the end also, of Bumpy Johnson just seeing his dream here fall apart. Is what you think about the cinematography, because that's the most important part of this scene to me, is the way they shoot Bumpy as everything is going on around him in this scene.
It's sort of it's sort of at this point now the Bumpy trope, because when everything seems to be going right, there's some measure of adversity that hits his doorsteps, and this is it. With him having a moment of him being happy, it looks like he's happy. I mean, listen, this is everything he wanted, and it's only 4 episodes in. I mean, what could go wrong in another Bumpy Johnson success story? So, Forrest, who's on a lot of television right now, by the way, Andor. He's on this. He's on something else I was just watching too, but a lot of Forrest out there.
And it was Havoc on Netflix, the movie.
Yes, thank you. Yes, the movie. Thank you. There you go. Still television, but yes. I just think, like, he does a good job in really expressing the frustrations in all these shows, to be honest. But definitely within this, because like we want to believe that, and no matter how you sort of idolize Bumpy Johnson, that it was never a linear road trip for him. I mean, from jail, from everything with his daughter. I mean, we go on and on of the ups and downs. And this is another one where it's like he got what he wanted. He was able to help out Brother Man last episode. And it's like, yes and no, because now he has to be aware of the union workers and also the prejudice and racism behind it as well too. That I guess we'll talk about later. But it just was just interesting to see, every time he's up, for every step he takes forward, there's 2 steps back.
Exactly. And that's the problem here. And you know what? This is the perfect way to segue, because this is one of the few episodes of Godfather of Harlem for me where they literally give you the best intro song ever and go immediately right back into the crux of this issue, with Mamie here being Bumpy's tether to reality, which is an ongoing theme in this episode for the way he goes about things. Is here they're just sitting at the breakfast table, and just her telling him, like, it's not a smart idea to go against the unions. We know how unions work here. This is not a smart move to make here. And not only that, she brings up the most important factor of this episode and to Bumpy in general. You can't become a gangster every time something doesn't go your way, especially since you're the one who said you wanted to change. What do you think about just the ray of truth that she hits him with in this moment, and just how receptive Bumpy is to it?
Also, I mean, I think it's a sort of a pattern that, well, I don't know, because sometimes, it is a pattern. I mean, I think that just shows her why her character is so significant. Why having a woman in your corner of that magnitude is always important. And so definitely a measure of moral support, but definitely a sense of like reality at all times. And I think Bumpy needs to be grounded. He needs to. When you think about it, though, and he's a very special. He's a very special, sort of say like case study. There's the word I'm looking for. When it comes down to these gangsters, these drug dealers that we always idolize, because like when you think about it, he was rolling with the families as a black man. He was building Harlem as a black man. And do you think he felt like he could be untouched? I'm sure he did at many times. I'm sure he felt much like Elise says at times, you know who my dad is. And I'm sure he thinks like, yeah, do you know who I am? And I think that Mamie always is the one that sort of give the perspective of like, you're still a black man. Like, don't forget. And these things are going to happen. And regardless of the business you take, it's still business at the end of the day. So, which, yeah, again, there's so much more to talk about how the business has to be, the supplies and needs for the business and how that's going to operate.
I mean, she even brings it up in this scene when she says, you know, through all this turmoil, technically, we're still depending on funding from other people.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to lose them over something like this. And it's just, again, trying to get Bumpy to focus on like, okay, this is what we actually need to be talking about here. But next up, we get Elise finds a new man. That's what I'm calling this scene, because that's exactly what happens here. I swear, my girl will move on in a heartbeat with no issues at all. But here we get the Panthers as they're gathering outside of a Harlem school just to talk about their food program, talking about funding kids to be able to eat so they can actually focus in school. We are in 2025, and this is still a problem. And they're talking about this.
Michelle Obama somewhere like, oh,
exactly.
Oh, please tell me. Please tell me about your problems.
Exactly. But here we get introduced to a new male in Elise's life, and that is Mr. Saeed here, as it's just another Panther, as they're just talking about the food program, talking about just how to forward the progress. And we get the cops show up, and we get Afeni arrested here because cops are dirty and they don't like black people. That's the best. That's the best way to put this here. I don't know if there's much else to discuss about this scene except for this. What do you think about just this early introducing someone who is clearly presenting themselves as another love interest for Elise?
I don't know what I thought about it, to be honest. It's kind of like, oh, okay, well, you know, a lot of the same on that one, but yeah, I don't know what
not Elise being Elise.
Elise being Elise. That's all it is. You know, one thing Elise gonna do. She gonna. I mean, listen. It wasn't that long ago. She was on television, looking at the television, saying, "There's some fine men there," and she took her shot. You know, and that's what it is. Also because you know they're gonna get under us if we don't mention the connection here. But see, like my man Obi from Power Book 2 Ghost, then took his ties from Noma to Afeni Shakur. So if it's one thing he likes, it's taking orders from a strong black woman, you know.
It's Obi's daddy. Because you know, this is like years ago. This is Obi's daddy. This is how they started the thing with Noma. That's all that is here. But again, it's just very interesting because we don't forget all about Omar. Everybody keep in mind, the man she's supposed to be in love with is in prison. And she has moved on quicker than any hot girl ever. Like, she needs to be part of the baddies club at this point. As quickly as she moves on. Next up, we get Bumpy and the union boss here. This is a very interesting scene as they're just sitting down and having a conversation that I think a lot of movies and a lot of shows have avoided when you talk about unions and black people. Yeah. Because this is just a conversation, a struggle Olympics type of conversation here, where Bumpy, like, cool, we'll join a union. I need my people in. And he's very quick to dismiss any black people being in this union. And then he tries to play the struggle Olympics with Bumpy here, telling him what his people had to go through when they got to this country. Like, black people weren't enslaved for 400 years when they got to this country. But here is just a tug of war. And I think it's really the crux of the dynamic between Italians and blacks in this time period. Is if everybody wants to have the other side relate to their struggle and not pay attention to the other side, you're always going to get conflict. What do you think about this? Because this is just an amazing back and forth to have on this type of subject here. It's both of them pinpoint issues that are legitimate, but then when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, it just comes across as an unnecessary discussion.
I So
only from the Italian point of view when I say unnecessary also, because you can't play struggle Olympics with black people. That's unnecessary. Come on.
I'm actually more curious about what you fully think on this too, because like a part of me was just kind of like, it makes you wonder why there was so much of a war dynamic, a power dynamic going on through New York when everybody essentially was all going through their own struggles, where most people kind of rallied and band together. But there was so much turf wars from barrel to barrel, and it just, I don't know. I guess it just gave me for a moment. I was just kind of thinking like, okay, like, yeah.
It really brought to mind for me the and this is gonna be a weird correlation for some people out there, but just go along with me here. It literally brought up the argument that a lot of people have when you equate black men to black women. And I listened to someone, I cannot remember the woman's name, and she put it perfectly. Understanding when you're the white man in the room. And that means that the white man is always the top. So even when you play Struggle Olympics, you have to understand when you're the white man in the room, meaning you are the superior no matter what. When you have a discussion between black women and black men have to understand you are the white man in the room at that time, because you're always going to be looked at being above a black woman. It's going to happen because she's a woman. So you understand that argument. And this is here where we see the union boss just doesn't have that understanding. He's so focused and so stuck on, this is what my people had to do to get here. But you're willing to dismiss everyone else because of that. It's the same issue you have with the Irish at this point in time. Same exact problem, where everybody was discriminated against if you wasn't Christopher Columbus. But but just because everyone was discriminated against
but the thing though, like even from his perspective and even like his story, like it still felt very prejudiced towards black people. It definitely didn't feel enduring. Like, hey, we had struggles and you had struggles. It's like, hey, we had struggles, so you owe us in a way, or we deserve better for whatever reason. We're in debt to them for how he was kind of spelling it out. That's what I was thinking.
We had struggles to get to where we at. So why don't you all pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do the same thing? That's what I mean by the Struggle Olympics here. It's like, in all out, you can't play that game at this point in time here. But we already understand that, especially in this time period, Italians for the most part are pretty racist. But it's not just against black people. They're that way with everybody.
Yeah.
If you are not Italian, if anyone saw Casino, you know this. I mean, Robert De Niro's character is Jewish, and we saw the way they treated him in there. They treated him like he was below them. That's just the way they operate here. But again, that's the problem with this whole conversation with this too. But that is the most interesting part of the conversation. Because the moment Bumpy cuts him off, that should have been the end of the conversation. Bumpy's like, whoa, you're not going to talk about struggle with me.
Yeah.
You are talking to the wrong person if you want to go down that road. But I give it up to the writers of Godfather of Harlem, because this is still a conversation that does not happen on television often. We kind of skate around it a little bit and we bring up, oh no, they're just racist. Okay, but go dig deeper. And here you hear someone who's legitimately putting up a great point of, this is what my people had to go through to get here. This is the reason why I'm not giving you the opportunity. Not understanding what you're saying is, I'm racist against you, and I'm not going to give you the opportunity for that reason here. Like, again, I just love this conversation between them two one-on-one, because we just don't get that in television too often. But next up, we get Stella and Joe as they meet to talk about a character whose name I did not know to this episode. Who the hell is Cowboy Nick? I never knew it was Cowboy Nick. But here, Joe and Stella meet up to talk about it. And this is just a conversation about advice. After Stella questions Joe, did you kill him? And Joe's like, no. And she brings up Joe's past issues with her dad. But just the advice he gives her here is very stern and very much the leadership type of thing to tell Stella. Is you can't let this slide. You have to find out who did this, and they have to pay. Especially after Stella said her men are out for blood here. But this is about, as we saw in the prior episode, where you have one person in her team who's looking to supersede her, because he shows her little to no respect, even though we understand that Chin put her in charge here. What do you think about this back and forth between Joe and Stella here.
If Stella didn't feel like she had anything to learn, she wouldn't even hang with Joe at this rate. I think she keeps him. She knows he's useful for reasons, and of course Joe is there because I'm sure he still has some measure of
feelings for Stella,
feelings for her. Yeah. So yeah, that's just kind of what that is. She's just learning as it goes, and while she is the princess of Harlem, she still is. If she's gonna run that family, properly, we're still just seeing the makes of it, and she'll go through her own adversity because I definitely think whatever his name is, that's sort of her right hand man. He's definitely gonna try something soon.
Yeah,
you just get a feeling. He's very. I don't say belittling, but he feels like he picks his moments at time to speak out of turn or to be out of line.
I feel like he's dismissive of her because she's a woman.
Oh, well, yeah, because but you mentioned they were racist, but let's not forget that they're also sexist too.
Yes, women know their place, and you have your place. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we get the dumbest criminal in Godfather of Harlem, Frank, as he attempts to pawn a ring of someone he murdered, and then tries to play it off like it's nothing. It's not much here to talk about because this scene just pays everything forward. It's something that later on in the episode, you understand why they spent so much time talking about this scene here. Next up is just a simple dinner table scene between a family as they talk about, at the beginning, the unions. And Bumpy really letting Margaret know, as she says, I thought unions were good. And he says, no, not for us. And lets her know that the reason that the union is fighting him is because his people are black. And that's the only reason. But the key scene here is Elise asking her about her college essay. And she reveals that she wants to go to California, Berkeley, because that's where the Black Panthers were started. Great piece of history there to let people know that that type of school is where the Black Panther Party started and came from in this scene right here. But this leads to the conversation between Bumpy and Elise. And this is something you kind of hinted towards last episode, where you brought up like the Black Panthers kind of took up the mantle for Malcolm and moved forward with it. And that's exactly what Elise tells Bumpy here. Yeah. But we still see Bumpy attempting his best to bribe his daughter, who asks him for $500 so she could get a Feeny out of jail, and says, as long as you put down the jacket, you can get the $5. Or we ain't gonna talk about, it was him or Mamie who said, oh, that's why you got the afro.
Yeah. It was Bobby that said that. Yeah. Oh, that's
but what do you think about the back and
forth? Listen, this straight up. What's her name who plays Elise, man? I don't know how many wigs she's worn throughout her time in the show, but she got to be near double digits. And it's probably not beyond
for good 2 seasons. For good 2 seasons, she hasn't wear no wig. She just had on her job.
That's right. Yeah, head pieces. She definitely had a double digit number of them.
My girl is she is the Thanos of collecting civil rights positions at this point, Joe. What did you think about because this conversation didn't come across as Bumpy having an issue with the Panthers as much as it was his fear of what could happen to her. Correct. For being a member of the Panthers. Just what do you think about that part of the conversation?
I wouldn't even say that. I just think it's a sense of, much like we joke about, like, hey, it's always one to the next. Like, have you actually sat back and thought about the decisions that you are making? Like, you move the thing so quickly. That, at least that's how I felt like he came out to me. But I don't think he knows. I mean, yeah, I know because there's a conversation about what they stand for and their reputation. I get that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, and then as a man and his daughter, you get that perspective. Yeah. But I really don't think his response was nothing more than like, you always on something new really quick. Yesterday you was Muslim, now you're part of the Black Panthers. So like, I don't know what's next. She gonna be in the military the next week. Like, she just on, man.
The only movie she didn't join was the non-violent one. She's like, yeah, nah, that ain't me. I can't do that one. I can't do that one at all.
Yeah.
But at the end of this scene, we get notice that Stella has called for a meeting with Bumpy, and we jump directly into that meeting. And this is Stella asking Bumpy, does he have something to do with the death of Cowboy Nick? I hate that name, Cowboy Nick. But after Bumpy assures her he doesn't, this is where they come up with an agreement. Bumpy's like, if you help me with the union leader, I'll help you in finding out who took out your man here. And again, this is another scene where we see Stella's second being not only highly disrespectful and dismissive of Bumpy, but in a way he's being extremely dismissive of her and what she thinks should happen here. Is what you think about, I'm not going to say the continued disrespect as much as this type of deal when Stella understood what this deal could bring.
Yeah. Oh, Stella catching a body. That's all. That's all. You know what? And honestly, the more I say that, I really believe it. But I feel like Joe's gonna do her a solid soon.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't be the first time.
No,
you know. So
that's the feelings part of it.
Yeah, of course. You gotta take care.
I mean, Bumpy hints to it later in the episode when they talk about another deal, and she brings up Joe's going to be mad, and Bumpy really slickly says, "Oh, you'll handle that." That lets you know he even understands the relationship between Stella and Joe at this point.
Yeah.
Next up,
I forget. Is this the scene where Joe very slick say, "Are you fucking him too?"
No. That's the next scene. This sets up the scene because after, because we can skip the follow scene because we can go back to the follow scene and go. The very next scene for them is when Stella goes to meet Joe, and she talks about the union boss, and he asks her, "Why are you coming to me for Bumpy Johnson?" And this is what Stella lets him know, like, your leader is skimming off of the top, and you know he's skimming off of the top, and he does not like black people, and because he does not like black people, maybe you need to get rid of him. And this is when Joe goes off and says, "Well, I know your feelings about black people, and then you have a blues singer who was banging your back out. A blues singer who was banging your back out.
Hey,
maybe is Bumpy fucking you now? Is that who you with?" And Stella ends that whole conversation by saying, "Better him than you." Bitch, what do you think about Joe is still willing to listen to Stella through all of this, including him bringing up this man is someone who he's known for 35 years, but yet she still listens to him here. And then just their back and forth by the end of this scene.
Yeah, I mean, Stella knows how to work the room. It's always been talented on that note, especially somebody who has the interests of her like Joe. But I mean, like Joe's defensive before he actually processes things. That's his thing. You know, he'll definitely be defensive at first, but once he gets behind his desk and sit back, that's when he starts to really realize what's being said. But I mean, it's no different from, you know, disrespecting somebody. It has to be handled. Joe understands that principle as he preaches it. He has to practice it too. So, you know, if something's not right, you gotta take a look into it.
Yeah, I think that's the most important part. But again, Joe still also wants Stella. I mean, if ain't nothing becoming more obvious here, is that's the case here.
He ain't touched another girl. He ain't touched another girl since.
Nope. But the most impressive part of the scene was Stella never lost her cool.
Yeah.
Through all of that. If you want to know, like, it's a white woman on TikTok or one of them Instagram pages, and she always says, "If you want to know what a boss look like, bitch, you looking at one." That's what I said with Stella here, because she never lost her cool. It was very much matter. She was smiling at Joe as he was throwing insult after insult at her. If this was Stella from season 1 or 2, she'd have went ballistic because of this. So this is just again showing the growth of that character. Next up, we're gonna go back a little bit to Elise turning into Bumpy Johnson as she plans to rob drug dealers to help get Afeni out of jail. Of course, she's gonna think of that. That's Bumpy Johnson's daughter. Not much yet to talk about that. But after that, we get Nate going to the pawn shop and finding out that Frank pawned the ring of Nick. As the pawn shop owner says, the moment you said, "Oh, y'all put something out in the street, you're looking for something," I knew this was it. And some good-looking kid from down south, fresh off the bus,
country boy came down here.
Country boy, put this in here to pawn off again. don't think it's much here to talk about because this is just a setup for the
I just
remaining.
love how Pettigrew try to act like it ain't a given who it is. That whole sister like, who could he be talking about? Like, but he know.
He knew exactly who.
Hilarious, man.
Next up, we get Elise and Sadiq as they are here scoping out the junkies to rob here. The only thing to pay attention to here is when we see a picture of the main dealer, Elise's whole facial expression changes. So that just lets you know she knows exactly who this is. Right after having this conversation with Sadiq in the car about not judging junkies because you don't know where they come from.
Yeah.
Like that, again, I think that was just a dope way to set all of that up here. Next up, we get possibly one of the best scenes of this episode between Bumpy and Dale. Here, Dale tells Bumpy, I will take out this union boss. I ain't got time to care. I'll kill him. I'll cover it. We'll be fine. But here, Bumpy says it's more than one way to take out a boss. And here he reveals the plan that he understands the union is cooking the books. So he needs Dale to wait by and get these books out of the union office so they can use them against him.
Yeah.
That is important.
Yeah.
The best part of this scene is what Dale says to Bumpy next when he says, I'm your oldest friend, so I can say this. You thinking you can build this with an all-black crew, no white people, no union involved. You're living in a pipe dream. And Bumpy tells him sometimes it's worth being in a pipe dream. And Dale says, or is it that you always need a fight? What did you think about that? Because that's a reflection that we don't. Dale is not that way with Bumpy. But here, I think he felt he had to speak up to let Bumpy know, like, it feels like you're picking a losing fight because you just need to have one.
I mean, I'd say that Dale has always very consistently been the one that isn't afraid to speak to Bumpy. Pettigrew isn't going to do it. Junie Bird isn't going to do it. It's always going to be him, and I think like this is just the moment where it needed to be said. I think there's a bond between these two brothers. I think that there's undoubtedly loyalty between the two, and I think they would go to any extent for one another. And I think with that, you know, this is why these conversations, why we appear for them to be tough, but like, you know, when it's your boy, you're like, I'm gonna say what I gotta say. They'll respect it because they know who it's coming from. So honestly, I looked at it as like real G shit. Real G shit all day, every day.
Next up, we get just the setup for the Panthers as they're here to go over the robbery plans. Not much to talk about here. It's just that it's one nigga. It's always one nigga who'll be like, I don't know. Something doesn't seem right about this.
Yeah.
Like, look here, you can't be revolutionaries and not rob people or to get a Feeny out. You're not going to leave her. As they say, would you want your sister in jail? Like, you're not going to leave her in jail just not to do that. There's not much here to talk about that scene. The next following scene is when Bumpy and Stella meet back up again. At this point, Bumpy has the information and lets Stella know, I know who took out Cowboy Nick. But I have a plan for the union. And this is where Bumpy's whole plan of why he needed the books comes into fruition here. And we find out that someone who is the number 2 in the union is connected to someone in Stella's organization.
Yeah.
And Bumpy thing is, if we get rid of the top guy who's connected to Joe, the moment we get rid of him, we get your guy in, I can get as many people in my crew on there as I want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
The more interesting part is, I brought up earlier, is just when Stella says, oh, this will make Joe mad, and Bumpy smiles and says, I know you'll handle that.
Yeah.
The most important thing is we see at times the growing relationship looks very similar to the relationship that Bumpy and Chin had.
Yeah.
Where they have a mutual respect, if not trust, but respect for one another. This is what you think about this sit down, the difference between this sit down and a first sit down between Bumpy and Stella.
Again, I think it shows that Stella is still bossing up. The only thing I would say different but between her and Chin is 100% not just going to take a plan and be like, all right, cool, that's right. It's going to give some measure of rebuttal, or he's going to, you know, have to move things around that suits him a little better. But it's a good plan and right. But I also think for Stella, she feels empowered because she's working with Bumpy Johnson, not somebody that she respects and obviously has been a financial benefit to her family and what they've done and sort of honoring the relationship her and her father and him had. But like, nah, she's really taking up the mantle, and I think she feels sort of liberated in a way that she's given sort of the green light to go handle it, handle her part of it. He's going to do what he has to do, so it's cool. Also, Stella has no emotion. I can't wait till she smiles. Right now, she's just
everything is stone face. I told you.
Yeah.
Stella ain't playing with him now.
Yeah, she catching the body.
Stella, hey, if Stella come in all black, I'm gonna be saying it the whole time, dressing all black like the Omen. Stella about to turn in Lil' Kim soon, Joe.
Yeah.
But next up, we're gonna run through a couple of scenes of not big importance, just things that pay future dividends. Next up, we get Pettigrew as he finds Frank gambling, because Frank just does everything out in the open where anyone can catch him doing anything he has no business doing. And once he catches Frank, he brings him to Bumpy. And this is what Bumpy gives Frank the bad news, is that sometimes you have to sacrifice people for the greater good of what needs to be done. And Frank tries to lay it on thick here. And this is a trend of his, of laying it on thick to Bumpy and thinking he could pull at Bumpy's heartstrings. But here we clearly see, and I think possibly that conversation with Dale weighs a little bit here. Bumpy like, yep, none of that matters.
Yeah.
Like you have put yourself in this predicament. This is the route that we're going with it. Yeah, not much there to talk about. Next up, we do get the robbery scene, and we get the whole setup here as one very smart of the young man, the Panthers. I can't remember. It wasn't Sadiq. I'm sorry. I forget which one it was who said, "Oh, we're not going in there unarmed. Like, if we're going to do this, it's going to have to be armed here." But as we get to the top of the sets, we see Saeed save Elise's life by yelling her name as the dealer comes around the corner as he notices a freshly lit cigarette in an ashtray here. And this leads to Elise. Is this her first body on Godfather of Harlem?
Oh, probably. Yeah. Look how she reacted. 100% her first body.
Yeah. This is her first body she catches on Godfather of Harlem as she defends herself here. I'm going to jump ahead here just because now that we know who this person is what you think about just the whole setup of this scene. We saw the initial look when she first saw this person to later on she meets with Margaret and tells Margaret, this guy used to run with is your biological father, and I heard he died. Not saying I killed him, so I know he's dead. Just what do you think about that weighing on her? And then first that weighing on her, then we'll talk about the Margaret part of it.
I don't think anything of it yet. I want to see how this plays dividends going down the line, because she
looks shook.
She's lying to her sister,
her daughter
sister, yeah. That she basically joined the Black Panthers to protect her. When you think about it, like, and then she joins them, and look what happens first. Like, she kills her, biological father and whatnot. Exactly. So,
it's like when Hawkeye joined the Avengers to help Black Widow.
What? Oh, what? I just think that her lying to her sister, I think that's gonna pay dividends. I don't think the daughter sister does it. I don't think she cares.
She gave two.
Yeah, on to the next. I don't think. I mean, she clearly didn't care or break. I don't think she's gonna care at all.
Yeah, so that was insane for her to say, "Well, this is your first time bringing him up, so he don't matter." Like, that's technically your daddy. Ellsworth is my dad. Ellsworth is your grandfather.
Yeah.
Like, I'm waiting for that conflict to truly come to fruition, if it ever does, or if it ever mirrors their real life situations there, because then that could be very interesting to see how that is moving forward here. Next up, we just get Dale as he stakes out the union office, and Dale and some white people and some entertainment. that's all I got written down there. Dale, white people, and entertainment here. Just as he breaks into the union office to get the books that were highly important for them to get. Following scene is Afeni's free. And we still see, the ramifications of Elise having to kill that gentleman, even with Saeed here offering her to drive her wherever she needs to go. We see that he's clearly attempting to get as close to her as humanly possible. But this is just another reflection for Elise, because this person she just had to murder Now that we know that is technically her daughter's father that she killed. So we understand at the full weight that's weighing down on her at that moment. One quick question. Am I the only one to notice an odd look when Elise left and Afeni and the rest of the way the Black Panthers were looking at her?
Yeah,
that's what I picked up on immediately.
100%. I'm definitely wondering how that's going to play out. I think there may be so what I do think, I think there may be a sense of doubt and uneasiness. I think the males are trying to see how the mission, because there's going to be a lot of them. I'm sure they're like, hey, she's not built for this, she can't be down. And I think Afeni's just trying to figure out her spot where she needs to intervene to sort of like give her that extra boost of confidence. So there was definitely an assessment look from everybody. I just think they were just two different ones, and rightfully so, because even us is like, she just called a body for joining the Black Panthers. She was so about this not that long ago, but now she see the work that's got to be at hand. Like, is she still down? We'll see on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z.
She like my little dude from New Jersey Drive when he was down to ride in the stolen cars. The moment he had to steal one, though, his whole body and life was shook. That's what Elise looked like in that scene. Next up, we get Bumpy meeting with Joe, and this is the disclosure of all the financial records of the union, as we see Joe going off here, wondering how did Bumpy get this information. When Bumpy says, I have connects, just like you have connects, and Joe very smartly says, how the hell did the connects get these books? As he just has questions here. But the key part here is Bumpy breaking down exactly what will happen to Joe if all this information gets out. Is it telling him, you don't know if he's going to flip on you? Doesn't matter anyway. You're connected to this. This can put you right back in jail. These are felonies. He played this just to put Joe in the corner. What did you think about this type of chess move from Bumpy?
This makes him who he is, And also, too, Bumpy gets to play in a bigger sandbox than them. There's rules within the families, and anybody's willing to work with Bumpy, but everybody's not always willing to work with the mob and the family. So, it's just he's always 3 steps ahead. Typical him.
And he works Joe here perfectly, and that's what irritates Joe more than anything else, because everything Bumpy was saying was true. So he couldn't refute any of it. He just didn't want to have to follow through with what exactly he knew he would had to follow through with. Following scene we already talked about, and that's Elise meeting with Margaret, as Margaret said, "Who that? I don't know that man. He could walk past me now. I wouldn't know that man." And then the following scene is 2 scenes they run parallel to one another here, and that is Joe meeting with his old time friend, who is the union boss here, and at the same time we get Stella meeting with Frank. And we get to see the parallels of their leadership and a difference between the two. Just without even talking about how both scenes ended, what do you think the way they played both of these scenes off of each other?
I actually don't know. I didn't even think of it that way. I mean, Frank and Stella, I mean, it's just so more of an interest in working things out. And I wouldn't be Joe if Joe wasn't ready to use brute force at any time. It can always end fatal with Joe. So, you got to be on edge. But Stella isn't built like that. She's going to look for leverage in every situation.
Oh, man. I saw it as an experienced person versus someone who's inexperienced.
Yeah.
Because Frank threw everything at Stella humanly possible for her not to kill him.
Yeah.
The union boss attempted the same thing with Joe, and Joe ended it with, oh, I can't even take that risk of this happening.
Yeah.
And Stella just was risk averse, where she didn't even think about what happens if I let this guy go and he double crosses me.
Yeah,
we literally already see. I mean, because if we got to pay attention to the way the last episode ended before this one. Frank was meeting with Joe, and he has a backdoor deal with Joe already in place. So him talking to Stella is not another deal here, but this is her just not understanding. Sometimes you gotta take the body that's in front of you.
Yeah, sure.
You can't just tell me he won as her high-headed second in command and reacted to. You can't say he just won this ring off of this guy in a dice game.
Yeah.
Most of them don't like black people. They're not playing dice with you. But it was, again, it was just the inexperienced element of Stella
That's a
here.
good
As
point. Yeah.
she fell for the banana in the tailpipe of him saying, "You think Bumpy's with you on your side?" At what point in time would she have ever thought Bumpy was on her side? Bumpy doesn't even give the illusion out that he's on Stella's side here. Bumpy is looking out for Bumpy, and always will look out for Bumpy.
Yeah,
but then
business is business, though.
And that's the problem. If you're naive in business, you're not going to put two and two together here.
Mm-hmm.
But Joe quickly puts two and two together, and that's why I like his reaction to everything. Because everything the guy said was wonderful. Down to, if it falls, I'll take the blame for it. I'll serve the time for it.
Yeah.
And Joe feels like, yeah, we're not taking that risk. No, I can't say what you would do because you don't know what you would do here. So I did love just the parallel between those two, just to show the experience level of these two big bosses at that time with that scene. And the final scene is, and I have it written down, this, but Bumpy can see his dreams coming true. And here it's just as a huge reflection of, first we get the reflection of him and Mamie at the table, and just a different headline in a newspaper. We get to see the St. Clair built up over time and how that looks with the grand opening. But at the same time we're seeing this, it didn't look like that was satisfaction on Bumpy's face. It looked way more like that was worry on Bumpy's face about all of this stuff that can happen. What did you think about the way they set up this scene, the way they scored this scene, and the cinematography? Because all of that was movie-like, the way they showed Bumpy and the reflection of everything here.
I think it's a comment that we have not brought up yet. Picking up on the tidbits, and I definitely want to give somebody in the comments from last week their nod to it. And it's not that I didn't notice it, just haven't been something we addressed. Bumpy's health is definitely an issue that is brewing up, because we see moments of him, and what Forrest does so good. And also Forrest kind of was warming up with Emperors of Ocean Park because of health issues as well in that show with the character. So like, if he knows how to give you that like subtle like breathing issues or looking very hot as if he's getting ready to sweat. So I think when I saw from this, is like, this is his idea of like what he ultimate dream wants to be. I think there may be a measure of hesitation of him actually think he's actually going to be able to reach it. He sees it. He knows it's right there. He glamorizes it. Here's all the things that's going to happen, but can he actually get to it? I think what that scene symbolizes is undoubtedly his first time that he feels doubt if he's going to be able to accomplish what he wants to accomplish. Nothing has never been so close, but yet so far from him, is how I kind of perceive that.
Yeah, right in his reach, but he's grasping for it, trying to hold on to it, but he may have some doubt in his mind he's ever going to reach that.
Yeah.
And again, following the explosive episode of episode 3 of this series with James Baldwin, what did you think about episode 4 of this season's Godfather of Harlem?
Good episode. So much more to come. So much more for them to cover this season. So it was definitely a good episode. Definitely really dived into not politics per se, but like the business politics and sort of the state of just how again, it's just another obstacle in terms of Bumpy's goals and rebuilding Harlem and kind of understanding what does that mean, and how anything he did was never linear. Bumpy was his nickname for a reason, not because I don't know how he got Bumpy, but damn sure because everything is a fucking bump in the road for him.
Watch what's that, Hell Up in Harlem? Am I saying it right? Hoodlum, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Lawrence Fishburne, because Lawrence Fishburne plays Bumpy Johnson in there.
That's true, yeah. True.
This is Tyson playing Queen Bee.
Yeah.
AKA Stella.
Yeah. But it's good. Good episode. Can't wait to get back for next week.
Exactly. So folks out there, let us know what you think. What do you think about this relationship between Joe and Stella, and how is this going to go forward? As we kind of see, she does get some pleasure out of things not running the way that Joe needs it to run. What do you think about Frank and him now playing 3 sides against one another just for his own survival? And when will this catch up to him? And finally, what do you think about Bumpy? And is this going to be a dream he's actually going to see come to fruition, or as we've always said, it's always something in the way of this magnanimous thing that he wants to do for his people coming out, and what will be the next pin to drop on it. Matter of fact, and one more thing, what do y'all think about Elise? And who will she be down with next week? The Muslim. She's now
OPP. That's what she gonna be down with.
Hey,
watch out, Joe Colombo.
Next week we're gonna see Elise in a dashiki, and she gonna be with Africa Boombada, and then everything else gonna change again. But you can catch our review of Godfather of Harlem after the episode airs on MGM Plus. So you come here right episode airs, sit here, talk with us, have a discussion, or watch us and then watch it as it airs live. And then let us know what you think in the comments by liking, commenting, subscribing. We'll be down there throughout the entire week and sometimes weeks afterwards, because I'll be catching some very slick comments 2-3 weeks later, and I'm still going to jump in them and I'm still going to answer them, because you end up hurting my feelings with some of those comments. We don't know, or telling us a time period of the 70s. Like, I don't know if it's the 70s. I wasn't born in the 70s, but I still know what the 70s look like. But again, like, comment, subscribe, hit that little blink bell button so you know when every review drops from Big Old Bell. We got so much stuff out right now between Godfather Harlem and Raising Canaan, and we have so much more coming down the pipeline for you all to check out. This has been another recap review of Godfather of Harlem. Peace, people.
Precarious.